Welcome to the Creative Plan Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews of items, and convention panels, and other exciting things that we run into from time to time. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Sign to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
So while we're waiting, Tanya will be back here in a minute, and here she is. Just wanted to share with you, we're really informal. We've been doing panels together for a long time, and we really love it when the audience participates. Like, we try to build it into our timing of our panel that you guys get to talk to, because we're all here because we're excited and we love Loki, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to hear, like, as we're talking, if you have a thought or you have something to add, jump on in there, okay? Because it's more fun that way. We don't want to do all the talking. I'm Jennifer, Jen. We've been doing panels under the Rhoynish Turtle Conservation Society for a long time. That's a Game of Thrones reference. It's a super nerdy reference to turtles on Mother Rhoyne, if you wonder where that came from. And we have other friends. We're from the Phoenix area, but we have other friends that join us, like, for different panels. So it's just Tanya and I today, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
We're like the TusCon delegation. Because we always seem to be the ones that are able to come, and that's fine, because like our group of cohorts, we're kind of a mixed bag of interests, and so when we come here, it means Jen and I get to talk about whatever we want.
Which is pretty awesome. Which is, and who doesn't want to talk about Loki?
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's like I'm Tanya, and we like to nerd out, and we like to talk about nerdy shit with each other and with all of you. We're pretty excited. I'll be completely honest, we're pretty nervous about this because we haven't sat in front of people for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And when we've nerded out, it's been in our homes via text or video.
It's nice to be back.
It's nice to be back.
It's nice to be back. It's been a little overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we've got some random MCU related quiz questions. Here, I'll let you first set the stage for what we're talking about.
So, yeah, as all of us know, Loki kind of became a pop culture phenomenon whenever he first appeared in the first Thor film in 2011. And he's just kind of gone on to become like a beloved villain in the MCU. We're going to discuss Loki's character evolution throughout the MCU from that point up to his series on D+. We might even, if anybody wants to, we could even kind of chat a little bit about how he was portrayed in the What If series. Mm-hmm. And how over time, he kind of starts to resemble his mythological counterpart a little bit more, as far as, like, you know, in the stories, he's not necessarily like a villain. He's just this guy that is both the cause and the solver of the problems. So we're going to talk about him as the clever god of mischief from the myths, and his general qualities, and share some stories. And, like, he's got a really long history in the Marvel comics, as well as a really rich mythological history. We're going to mostly be narrowing that scope necessarily to the MCU, and then the retelling of some of the old stories that, like, I've read in Gaiman's version of stuff, and just from different articles I picked up here and there. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of like the expectation of the scope.
Yeah, okay. So quick question. So like I said, we're going to be, for you guys who just walked in, we want lots of participation. and we're going to be shouting out some quiz questions on the MCU side. So, do you know where Loki's the rightful heir to? Do you guys remember?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. I said it, she said it.
Rhode Island.
Yeah! I should have had prizes I could throw at you guys for it, but I don't.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Who remembers how did Loki sabotage Thor's coronation?
Let the frost giants into the vault.
Yes!
Yep.
Woohoo! So let's talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to kind of go through the MCU. It's going to be kind of just reminding you guys of the stories, and we're going to chat about it, your thoughts in relation to the myths. So Loki, of course, in the MCU grows up believing he's Odin's son, right? Mm-hmm. And that Thor is actually his brother. And we know in myths that's not the truth, right? He thinks he's his blood brother. Well, he is his blood brother. But in the MCU, of course, he's jealous of Thor, right? He feels like he should rule instead. And when he later learns that he's the biological son of the frost giant, Laufey, and Thor's to be crowned, we see Loki's scheming side come out, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And he lets the frost giants into Asgard, leading to a string of events that, of course, lead to Thor's banishment to Earth in the first Thor movie. And with Odin falling into the Odin sleep, Loki takes the throne for a short time until Thor returns and Loki falls into the wormhole leading to Sanctuary, which is the realm of the other. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. When we first see Loki in the MCU, is that what you guys were expecting of Loki? I mean, who here knows about mythology of Loki? Okay, so a lot of you do, okay. So what were you guys, was that the Loki you were expecting?
Not really.
No? What did you guys expect to see out of Loki?
I should Loki referred to as the trickster and things like that, so it kind of followed what I would have thought of for Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting somebody a little more confident, because Loki's the one who always gets into trouble, but knows how to get out of trouble. I cut her hair, and then I'll help you get a wig.
Yeah, I expected Loki to be a little more harsh and not not really caring, that he's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and he's kind of enjoying it. And he's also enjoying the fixes to it. It's like, and he is like kind of cold to it. Mm-hmm. And he's not really an MCU. He doesn't pull back and kind of be, I'm not saying this right, but kind of withdrawn, kind of not immune. I cannot think of the word.
That's okay.
I cannot. But
that happens to me all the time.
Pulled back from it, and he's just doing stuff for the sake of loving to do stuff. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really care too much about who he does it to. He just is doing it because he can.
Did you expect more of a prankster?
Yeah. And I didn't really see too much of that in MCU.
Who you guys, what did you guys think of Thor? I mean, in general, who was a fan of that movie? Or did you feel like it was just...
I liked it.
Yeah.
I like the third one better, but...
Yeah.
Did you guys feel like, I mean, obviously with Kenneth Branagh, did you guys feel like there was, like some people were analyzing it from a Shakespearean side, right? And that kind of shaped how Loki was portrayed. What do you guys think? Did you see that element, that Kenneth Branagh Shakespearean element in that movie?
Yeah, especially with Hopkins and Hiddleston together.
Yeah.
They were very like Hamlet or something. It was great. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're theater trained, so.
Yeah.
So they've all done Shakespeare before, so.
It was stiff.
Yeah.
The first two movies were very stiff.
That's well said. I think so too. We really, I mean, Ragnarok's my favorite. To be honest. I mean, how could it not be? Right?
He's a friend.
But it was very stiff. Speaking of going into that, so well, when we move into the Avengers movie, right? Let's move into that. We see Loki at his worst coming out. He's the big bad, right? He's the villain. He wants to subjugate Earth, and he believes it's his divine right to rule, right? It's his glorious purpose. And he ultimately, of course, is defeated by the Avengers, and this is where the alternate timeline begins for Loki's series on Disney+. And we'll get into that, but I mean, did you guys who here has seen the Disney+ Loki? Have we all? So there's no spoilers? No? Okay, spoilers.
Okay.
You should watch it. You should definitely watch it.
So good. I felt like the Loki and the Avengers personally just didn't resonate for me as what I expected from Loki as the trickster. And I'm going to have you kind of talk a little bit. Tanya's going to jump in with some myths, just examples of kind of Loki at his finest.
Yeah, it's like in mythology, Loki. Yeah, he's very different than MCU.
He's that guy.
He's somebody that the other gods, they find him incredibly annoying because if something bad happens, it's usually his fault. But they also kind of like having him around because he's really clever and he can usually figure out a way to fix whatever it was, whether it was his fault or not. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking of him as he's not really a trick. He's a trickster, and he's also he's the problem solver and he's the fixer. And he just, in the stories, he's not really a villain. He's not really a big bad. He's just kind of this guy.
Yeah.
He does things for laughs. He doesn't really think about the consequences. Or he comes up with schemes that are supposed to work out, and then sometimes he just has to really go the extra mile to make sure that they do. We do see in the MCU briefly whenever he shapeshifts, into Steve Rogers. And there's a really good meme that I've seen going around that was paired with an interview clip where I guess there was a part when filming where he had the shield and he had the hammer. And he said that he took a picture and he sent the picture to Steve and Chris, to both Chris's, and it was you're not getting them back. And he does so in mythology too. There's some great stories. One of the stories, should I go ahead and tell both stories?
Tell one of them.
All right,
We'll talk about another one later.
I'll tell one of the stories that I really like. The gods decide that they want a wall because frost giants are a problem.
That's a good one.
And they want a big wall to help protect Asgard. And a master builder shows up, and he claims that he's the best. He can build them a wall such as they have never seen in only 3 seasons. Yeah. And as payment, he only wants the sun, the moon, and Freya as his wife. Well, the gods all get together. Loki says, look, let's tell him to do it in 1 season without any help. He'll never finish, so we won't have to pay him. And we'll have the foundation for a wall, we can finish it ourselves, and it's fine. And it turns out there's more going on with this builder and his horse than meets the eye, because this guy works at an astonishing speed. He takes off, goes to a quarry, comes back with just mountains of stone, lays it all out, and then they start to realize that they're basically screwed.
Yep.
The wall is growing.
Loki's oh wow, whose idea was this? This is terrible. And they're all well, it was your idea, and now you have to fix it. So Loki's it's fine. He says, well, the next day, this beautiful chestnut mare appears in the meadow. And it's just bounding through the meadow, nibbling grass. Then he gets the attention of the builder's horse, who's a fine stallion. And Loki kind of the chestnut stallion.
Chestnut stallion.
Disappears into the woods. The mare. And then Stallion goes after him. And the builder's looking around. He can't find his horse. So he tries to do it himself. But, then, there's a confrontation between the builder and the gods. And the god reveals the builder reveals himself that he was a giant. And he kind of, he leaves.
Contractor disputes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a significant contractor dispute, and the builder leaves. Well, nobody sees Loki for a long time. He just disappears. And then sometime later, some months later, he reappeared. And he's leading this gangly cult with 8 legs named Sleipnir. And he never likes to discuss the horse's parentage. And he gave the horse as a gift to Odin. And that's one of my favorite stories, just because it's so ridiculous.
It's so a Loki story.
Yeah.
It's totally a Loki story.
And they even made a joke about Loki having been a horse on an episode of Supernatural once.
Mm-hmm. He took one for the team, literally.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
now Odin rides his grandson.
Yeah.
If only he knew.
Hey,
Oh, he knew. Oh, yeah. Being Odin and all.
So, you know, we hear these stories, right? Like with Sleipnir, and I see Loki with his divine right to rule and his glorious purpose, and I just think of those stories, and I'm like, I want more of that Loki in the MCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as a reminder, so we have the Avengers where we steer off, right, on Disney Plus. But in the MCU, of course, Thor returns Loki to Asgard. Odin sentences him, right? So he's in the dungeons. And through his actions, when the Dark Elves invade, we know that Frigga's killed. And I think that in the MCU, that really has an impact on Loki and his realization of his involvement. And Frigga was so important to him. And of course, Thor later frees Loki to help him defend against the Dark Elves. And when Loki fakes his death and returns to Asgard to remove Odin from the throne, he then successfully rules for a couple of years until Thor is able to, of course, uncover his deception. So, let's see. Let's have a quiz question. I'll jump ahead because I'm kind of giving some of them away. Which realm did Loki attempt to destroy with the Bifrost? Yep. How about this? Which Infinity Stone did Thanos task Loki with retrieving?
Space.
Oh my gosh, you are amazing! You're like the best Loki ever. Right? How about what did Thanos give Loki in a deal for the Tesseract?
Are we talking about the scepter and the right to control Earth? Or
Yes!
That's the right.
Yeah!
That was the bounty.
Okay.
The scepter was the tool.
All right. Yeah, but help controlling Earth, right? So we know that like Thor uncovers that Loki's been, portraying Odin, and he's like, okay, where's Odin? They go to Earth to find him, and isn't he in like New York? He thought he was in New York in an old folks home, right? Oh my gosh. And we kind of feel like this is a real turning point in Loki's character development, right? Because in Ragnarok, it was less stiff, like we were talking about before. There's a lot better comedic timing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. And you see a more playful, mischievous side of Loki, I think, in there. And, he's funny. He's no longer the big bad. And ultimately, he helps Thor, right? And helps him defeat Hela and causes Ragnarok and the destruction of Asgard, right? It's just, little things like that.
No big deal.
No big deal. And so we think that Loki's shift from being the ultimate villain to more of this mischievous trickster god of myth happens because of fandom's love, right? And we're not sure if it's the love of the character itself, or the love of Tom, or both, right? Because so many people love Tom Hiddleston.
Yes.
And we feel like his evolution up to his death by Thanos is continued in the series from that point. What do you guys think? Yeah.
He definitely gets to play Loki and play at playing Loki.
He's loving every second of it.
Yeah.
I think people really resonate with him because he's a perfect reflection of who we are. caught up in a role where he thinks he's this thing, this person, or supposed to be in this role, ruling whatever. And as he learns more about the universe around him, the surroundings, and the implications of his actions, especially going into the Disney Plus, you see him still wanting to be that trickster by having the upper hand, but at the same time he's battling, knowing what he knows as far as what, he's now the role that he's playing is someone who, potentially is saving the universe, or, so it's like you could see that struggle, especially in the Disney Plus.
Yeah, you really can. Well said.
Like he started off at one thing, and then he has these he sees all this other stuff, and he's like, "Is this really what I should be doing?"
Seeing all the different perspectives that from in the Disney Plus series, being able to see the perspectives of himself through a different angle, it was really cool. That's pretty much you can call that enlightening, awakening, or being more mindful of your own actions. Mm-hmm. It's like that's that struggle that he's kind of in within the Disney Plus series.
I actually thought that was kind of a clever way to catch his character development up, since he splits the timeline when he pieces out whenever he's been arrested by the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really good way to a speedy character development, this is your real, or whatever they called it.
Good story.
And so he has to then experience all of it, everything at once.
And you get that full emotional gambit that he's watching. Ha ha! I screwed my brother. Oh, mom.
Oh. Yeah, and he realizes that her death. That's when he realizes her death is his fault. He finds out that, when he died,
it was a useless death.
Thor basically held him and cried over him. And I don't think he realized how much Thor cared.
That he had a second unconditional love in his life.
Right. Yes. So there's a lot of fan art out there and speculation that it's we need them to meet up again, and so Loki can give Thor a hug.
Mm-hmm. Or something. Show him that he cares too.
Yeah. There's a piece of fan art I saw where they see each other and he's like, brother! And Loki just flings himself at Thor and gives him a bear hug, and Thor is at first, what? But then returns it
knife?
Because he's
Where's the dagger?
Right? Yeah.
So, again, we talked about the timeline and the character arc, how it picks up from Infinity War. Really, I think, there's just so much to say about the Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was well done, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting if they're going to give it a second season.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. Yeah. See where they go with Sylvie and, how he feels about her and how she feels about him.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that we read in preparing this is that, Loki is basically queer-coded. He's a magic user. He doesn't know which, in a lot of the stories, magic is typically, a lot of magic is typically a feminine trait. And he got it from his mother. Mm-hmm. He does not embody the stereotypical masculine traits. He fights with his wit and with daggers and magic, all things that are considered to be more feminine weapons. He doesn't have any issues shape-shifting to whatever needs to happen. What was that?
A lady horse.
Right.
You do what you gotta do.
You do what you gotta do, exactly. Whenever they have to dress Thor up in a wedding dress to get his hammer back and pretend to be Freya, Loki's like, no
Best
problem.
Gag ever.
I'm gonna be a beautiful woman to go with you and be just don't say anything. I'll do all the talking. And so, just to make a brief comic reference, it's been that way in the comics for years. Mm-hmm. He gender fluid, dates whoever, and then their only real commitment, the commitment to that in D+ was you get to see his intake, and it says gender is, I think it said fluid on the form, and there was a line that he had where he liked princes and princes. And princes and princesses.
Mm-hmm. He says that to Sylvie.
Yeah. And there is a lot of moments and there is a lot of discourse in the fandom that he has a crush on Mobius.
At
And
the very least, a bromance. At the very least.
well,
Yes.
for me, the part in the series whenever they're in that weird garbage dump in between place, and Mobius and Sylvie come like, you know, crashing over the hills
The
in that
cavalry.
terrible car, and they get out. The look on Loki's face when he looks at Mobius, it's just as joyous as when he looks at Sylvie, and it's like, this is great, you guys.
And the fact that they came for him.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't had a chance to see it, the Assembled, which is the background of the different shows, it's on Disney Plus, and they have a Loki making of.
Oh,
It's about
cool.
an hour and 4 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
And it talks to all the actors and the writers and producers, so it's very cool. And it reminded me of that when you talked about Mobius, because Rich Wilson, Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, you can see there's a great actual camaraderie with the actors.
That's awesome.
So it's called Assembled, and then it's
Okay.
making of WandaVision, all of the ones that they made.
neat.
So-
That's cool.
And
Thank
What
you.
If and all of them, they do a making of for each of them.
That's nice.
So watch the Loki one, because it's good.
Thanks.
Cool.
I always think that helps too whenever they get along in real life, because otherwise, like,
There's no chemistry when they're
Yeah.
acting. There's nothing.
and just as an aside, I think my favorite moment in the entire Disney Plus series was whenever they went back to Pompeii and Tom Hiddleston, a classically trained actor,
Sit around.
gets to like leap onto a pile of stuff and yell at people in Latin. That must have been like
Glorious.
Just
he's like, I get to do what? Yes.
he is just Tom Hiddleston is just loving Loki.
Yeah,
very
It's
much
amazing.
so.
You know, like I saw, you know, back in the before times, there was like Ace Comic Con where they would like hold it in a big stadium, and it was just like they bring out big names to talk about stuff, like just celebrity panels all day. And I went to one with a friend, and Tom Hiddleston was there, and he said that he told this story that when he read for Thor, he didn't know who he was reading for. They had him read for, I think, both, and he didn't know what he got until like much later, because they were like the people doing the casting. They just sort of like picked him and Hemsworth because they were like, yes, these guys. And then he dug in and he read all this Loki stuff, and he told a lot of good stories in that panel. And he helped a girl with her Shakespeare homework.
Oh wow.
And I think I've seen an interview where he said he will play Loki as long as the MCU will let him.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Well, it's gotta be a lot more fun.
And that's
I
totally
mean,
a
it's probably
gift to us.
once
Totally.
Waititi, cracked the code and said, Norse mythology is really just drunk grappling stories.
Yeah.
Everything loosened up, and they have a lot more fun.
Yeah, and I guess before the Loki series, I mean, Loki's been around for 10 years in the MCU.
Yeah.
And the showrunner, I think they refer to her as like the head writer, since there's somebody who oversees all of that stuff. She had him teach Loki school to everybody to bring them all up to speed and talk about his character. And I was like reading those articles like, man, can I go to Loki school?
Sign me up. One thing, going back to the queer coding, that we had both read this really great tour.com article talking about how much it meant to the community in terms of having Loki come out as gender fluid in the show, and about how you could tell it was filmed differently, like they called it the feminine gaze.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the person who was basically in charge of the show was a woman. And they had women in the writer's room and just in many roles behind the scenes. Representation matters, you guys.
But it was a really good tour.com article in case you guys are curious.
I pulled it up so I can tell you what it's called. It's called Loki as Other. Why do queer and female viewers love the trickster by E.J. Beaton. So,
Nice.
it's good stuff.
Quiz. How long did Doctor Strange let Loki fall?
I've been falling for 30 minutes! Very good.
I feel like, you've completely earned your Loki badge already, but now it's just like, I'm in
Persona
love.
5.
I'm in love. Which animal did Loki once turn Thor into?
Hello, madame.
And show really quickly. See him.
You'd see him
very
when
quickly.
they go through the ground, yeah.
It's great.
Okay, who says, "We, my friends, have but one part to play, the god of outcasts"? Was it Loki, Sylvie, or classic Loki?
I think it was classic.
It was classic.
Classic Loki. Who here didn't? Classic Loki was amazing. I can't see the name of the actor. I'm like blanking out. Do you guys remember?
Oh.
He's done so much.
He's done so much.
He's done a lot of
But
stuff.
in Garb, he was just fantastic.
It was.
I can't think of who it is.
It was comic book accurate.
It was so good. It was comic book accurate.
I think
Are you
one of
looking
the
him
fun
up?
things
I'm looking it up.
they've done with the
Richard
Disney
Grant.
shows, because
Richard
they
Grant.
gave us classic Wanda and Quicksilver
Mm-hmm.
in the WandaVision show for Halloween too. It's like,
That was a great homage.
yeah,
Yes.
I like the fact. I do like the fact
that.
they went away from the comic book costumes because they do tend to look stupid
Mhm.
as a movie. But going back and saying, yeah, you know this look. It's something.
So good.
And the guy, Richard Grant, he actually had posted a photo of himself in his classic Loki costume, and he made some reference to, I guess, when he was much younger and he wanted to get into acting. His father would make comments about you really want to spend your career in tights. Because he was into stage and Shakespearean acting, and he was like, and the tone was kind of like, well, Dad.
Here we go. Yeah, back
So,
around.
tell me a story.
Well,
Tell me a story.
there was another really good story, and in my notes I called it the wedding of Freya. And one day they all thought Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, has been stolen, and everyone thinks it was Loki. Thor goes to Loki, basically just out of the blue, just goes to Loki don't tell anyone, but you need to help me find it. So Loki's like, your secret is safe with me. So then he goes to Freya, and he talks to her about it because he wants to borrow this cloak that she has of feathers that'll allow him to help him fly. And then he sees this giant hanging out named Thurm, and he talks to him about it. And Thurm's like, yep, it is gone. I took it. And he says that, he wants to marry Freya in order to get it back. And then Loki's like, okay. So he brings this news back to Asgard, and Freya understandably does not like this outcome. She's not really pleased with this thought process. And
I don't know why not.
yeah, she becomes so furious that the walls shake, and the cats that usually pull her chariot, they hide behind her furniture and they won't come out. And Thor doesn't see the problem. He's like, I'll get my hammer back. It's fine. Freya should want this. All he wants is her hand. What's the problem? She's got two of them. Oh boy. And Loki's like, shut up, Thor. And then he goes on again, and then Freya and Loki together, they shut up, Thor. So the gods all gather together to talk about this problem. And Heimdall has a plan. Dress Thor up as Freya and send him instead. Play a trick to get the hammer back. So everybody loves this plan. Except for Thor. Because he doesn't want to dress up as a woman. He doesn't want to wear skirts and finery. And they convince him to. Basically, the goddesses get together and they kind of pool their resources and they dress him up real nice. And he wears a full veil because, one must be modest when going to meet their groom. And Loki transforms into an elegant woman to accompany Thor as a chaperone and maidservant. And after Thor's all dolled up, they set off. And the trick actually works. And he basically does tell Thor, don't say anything or you'll ruin it. And just let me do all the talking for you. And so they he basically they talked their way through this feast. And the trick is actually working, and but they're all very shocked at Freya's appetite, because he's just just shoveling the food in, and so then Loki starts saying some stuff about like, oh well, she's just been so nervous, she's been fasting. She's been fasting, and this is a lot. And well, Therm then brings out the hammer, and he's convinced to lay it on the lap of his bride-to-be, and at that point, Thor picks up his hammer and just starts laying waste to everyone in the hall. And, at the end, everybody's dead, but he had a good meal. And Freya's happy because she got to stay, because people keep trying to marry her off.
If I were Freya, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, Freya, I would probably just leave. I would move somewhere else. Or make my cats attack somebody.
So let me ask you guys a question.
Hi, thank you.
Let me ask you guys a question. What do you think will be Loki's new glorious purpose?
Oh, wow.
Going forward?
Maybe restoring Asgard.
Okay.
Ultimately, I mean, it can't be exactly, but maybe finding a new place for it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he'll find his way to New Asgard here on Earth?
Yeah, maybe so. That makes sense.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
That'd be really. I want that to happen.
So we find out he's the other guy on the Xbox.
That would be so fun.
Loki trolling gamers.
Do you think, when we think of the Disney Plus series, do you think for his glorious purpose, it's merely to oppose Kang in future episodes? Or do you think it'll be more nuanced?
I think he's going to be like a foil against Kang, using everyone else. Like the comic book, he'll set the Avengers in Kane's path and just watch what happens.
Yeah.
Because that's totally how Loki does it, by not doing anything, except for one little thing.
Do you think he's really changed and evolved?
Yes.
Yes.
You do. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think, Sylvie, we don't know really where her head is, but
Right.
Loki to me, it's pretty obvious that he's kind of fallen for her in kind of a big way, and so he's kind of changing a little bit because of that emotion that is frankly unusual for him. So I think that he's changed.
Do you think he was trying to play her at the end, or do you think it was real?
I think it's real.
I think it's real.
It was
He's learned to love himself.
from a certain point of view.
Yeah, well, yeah.
For once, he didn't put Loki first. He put the other Loki
He
first.
put the other Loki first.
And the fact that it wasn't a con, it was.
It's
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
I really liked Sylvie.
Mm-hmm.
I do too.
I like her a lot.
At first, actually, I did not. And
No.
then as it progressed, I was like, okay, yeah, she's cool.
What was it about her that you didn't connect
I-
to?
What made me like her, I think, was understanding what happened to her.
Gotcha.
Her
Yeah.
origin and how she, and then going, this is how, when you have divergent paths, the same personage could go in different directions and then
Yeah.
converge back to each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, at first I thought she was just really abrasive and obnoxious, and I thought, I didn't even think there was going to be any inkling of romance or any of that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, because it wasn't like Moonlighting where you constantly. This was not that kind of foil. They were adversarial, but it wasn't like there was a spark. And then it was subtle. It was just more subtle than that. And once I realized what had happened to her as a child and all the crap she had to go through to get to this point, then she grew on me, and I was like, okay, she's cool.
Yeah, I I kind of liked her when she was introduced, just in the way of like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Loki now gets to face somebody that's basically kind of like he used to be.
Loki got out Loki.
And who's done different things with her magic. And when you see when she was taken, and like you said, like all the crap she had to go through to get to this point, and you learn that basically like all these people have just been plucked out of their own lives and brainwashed, and now they work for the TVA, and it's like,
that's like the ultimate victimization.
Go Sylvie,
Yeah.
go.
She's a revolutionary trying
Take
to
'em
save the
down.
people.
Go get them.
And it's like, and just when I think about that, it's just so sad because you see just a little girl playing with her toys. And these people come in and they drag her off and they make her disappear and they just torpedo her whole world.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's hard.
and to go back to fan art, 'cause I spend a lot of time in online fandom spaces, especially the last year, when we can't do things like this. But somebody drew some really beautiful fan art, and I think somebody called it like an alternate world where Odin's not a dick. And there's a picture of Sylvie's playing with toys and Hela's brushing her hair.
Aww.
And it's the sweetest thing. It's like, Hela was done dirty too.
Yeah. Odin was a
Yeah.
And thinking about Hela, I mean, that just like makes me think back of the myth, like how different she was in Ragnarok,
Oh, yeah.
right? From what she was in the myth is this
Like,
awkward girl that gets put in charge of like an area of death, right? That she where she can feel like home, right?
She's half corpse. You know?
Right.
yeah. And it's Loki's daughter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is a big difference in Big Sis.
Yeah. But I have one more story I want you to tell us.
Which one?
I think you need to tell the story about the hair. Do you remember the story about the
I
hair?
remember the story about the hair. Yeah. Thor, like one day he wakes up and Sif, the lady Sif is bald.
Oh dear.
Like bald.
Whoops.
Not shaved bald. There's no hair at all. And he goes to Loki and is like, what did you do? Kind of thing. And he was like, I just,
It was funny when I thought about it.
yeah, he just did it. He just did it to do it because it'd be fun. And he's like,
might
oh,
have been a little jealous.
and he's a little bit, but then he was like, oh, it's not going to grow back either because he took it all the way out. And so then he has to do it's this convoluted way to fix it because again, Thor, like, up against the wall, fix this. And so there's these two different workshops. I think of them like workshops of dwarves, and they both make beautiful things, and they like to compete with each other. And so he goes to one, and he tells them that the Asgardians are holding a contest, and you need to make your most beautiful things, and we're going to crown a winner. And so they set about making some stuff, and he goes to another one, and he tells them the same spiel, and then he says, but one of your items has to be a beautiful golden wig that will affix to someone's head and act and be like real hair. And he's like, all right, well, we can do that. So then he starts overseeing some of them, and one of the workshops didn't want to do this. He had to make deals with them. And like I think it was one of them in particular was like, well, that they made this bet, and if Loki loses, he has to let them kill him.
Oh, he was giving away
It was
his
for his
head.
head.
He was giving away his head.
His head.
And so obviously he doesn't want to lose his head. So he does a lot more shape shifting, and he'll like transform into these like biting insects to try to like rattle them so that something is just a little bit off.
Like
Because he wants to make sure that the other workshop wins, so he doesn't have to give up his head. So like he goes through all of this effort, and then the day comes where everybody's going to come and be judged, and that's how, and this is the story according how Thor gets his hammer, and Odin gets his spear, and Sif gets her hair. And Loki gets to keep his head. I know there's some other details, but I forgot to read it again before we came.
And it doesn't end up well for the dwarves.
No, it really doesn't. There's a lot of really great stories.
But once again, Loki manages to slip by.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know,
He's clever that way.
he saves his ass because he got Sif some hair.
Ladies in their wigs.
Uh-huh.
So, random question. Which is your favorite variant?
Oh boy.
Go.
I want to see more of the kid Loki. He's got a story there. You know, murdered everybody. You know, murdered everybody and took charge by 12.
Dude, did you see, like, so to speak, like our Loki's face whenever he was like, I murdered Thor, and Loki's like,
Yeah.
what?
I sent snakes after him, but I didn't murder him.
Yeah. Anyone else? Favorite variant?
Okay, everybody loves the green alligator.
Yes.
Oh.
That.
That is true, but I mine is classic. Because how it all played out in the storyline.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I hope we
came
get
out
more
really
of
well.
that.
I hope so. I'd love to see more.
Look it up. A gal did a cosplay, I think at Dragon Con, and she's in a stewardess outfit with green. She was
Delta variant.
Delta variant.
So
good. I saw it.
that's funny.
That is so good.
Yeah,
Delta variant. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
she had a podium and everything. And
Yeah,
yeah.
it was so cute.
That
Really
is
clever.
And I think the golden horns were like on a pin, like you know how you have your wings to fly. It was like that.
That's good.
So
Subtle.
good.
Subtle.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Favorite variant?
I don't know if I really had a favorite, but I really was intrigued by the one that I heard referred to as Boastful Loki. I think he had
The
a
suit
hammer.
Or
No, that was President Loki.
That was present.
Boastful Loki, I think he had furs.
Oh yeah, that had the like golden Mjolnir with the full size handle. handle.
Yeah. It's like, I want to know more about you.
Yeah.
He probably is also taking over Asgard.
Maybe. That room where all the variants showed up, that scene was pretty crazy.
And there's always
Yeah.
the DB Cooper Loki.
Who here was random question? Who here was absolutely crushed at the end when Loki shows back up and you see the big statue of Kang and he's not recognized?
I was crushed.
Yeah.
Means he has to start all over and take over that joint.
No.
Because they had such an important relationship, and then
I think what I said when it happened, when my husband and I were watching it, I just went, no. Is this the wrong TVA? Is this a multiverse? What's going on?
And then you see the statue pan where it starts all over.
Yeah.
I'm like, do we think it's the wrong TVA? And he got
Oh yeah, I
Loki
think he got
tossed him
dumped
into one of
into
the
the
alternate
multiverse.
universes.
Because I'm thinking
Yeah,
Scarlet
that
Witch
couldn't-
and Doctor Strange are going to hook up with Loki in the wrong multiverse.
Yeah, there's Multiverse of Madness should be really interesting.
And then Strange is going to say, "What did you do?"
Yes. I'm looking forward to multiverse.
Yeah.
That's going to be good. I hope.
I hope so too.
see if we have another quick question. Like number 10. Oh, what were Loki's last words to Thanos?
You will never be a god.
Yes!
Gosh, you're good.
So good.
Well, it helps that I've been watching a guy on YouTube who's been watching all the MCU movies. So I've been watching him react to the movies for the first time.
Oh, cool.
And I've done that the last couple of days. So I've been watching.
It's fresh.
It's all fresh.
Super
Nice.
fresh. That's
Yeah,
cool.
That's great.
And what was the name of the guy watching?
Seb Sean.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's never seen the MCU movies before, so he's watching them all in order.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Release date order.
That's
So
commitment.
He finally got to Endgame, and he was bawling.
It's relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when he took shots of vodka every time somebody died in Infinity War, by the end he was like, I'm just gonna take one for everybody.
And I was like, dude, this YouTube idea is not worth alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
Let's see if we have one more. Well, we kind of gave some of this away, but we'll ask anyway. Where did Loki put Odin whilst under his spell? Do you guys remember the name of it?
Oh, no. Can't remember the book's whole name. But
Golden Acres? Or
It was Shady Acres.
Shady Acres.
Right? You were close.
Yeah.
You were like 50%.
I was like, I forgot if were they stealing something from Asgard? You know, the plains of Asgard. Yeah.
Which German city did Loki attack?
I should know this.
What was that?
something?
Yeah, Stuttgart.
Stuttgart. Yeah.
I'm like, I know it's something.
Oh, did any of you guys watch the What If series?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Well, it's good.
It's
Makes
good.
my head just kind of spin around.
It's got,
So.
I mean, like, I don't know.
They had fun with it.
They had a lot of fun with it, and there's some really fun Loki content.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, there's a point, like, because I mean, it's what it says on the tin. It's what if.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Mike, Jen's husband, one time, and he had messaged me to say that he thinks that all the scenarios in What If are to just make people realize how screwed up everything could be, and that we should just all be grateful for what we have. Because in that series, there's some really heavy, depressing stuff.
Yes.
And but when they introduce Thor, he's been raised as an only child, and he's like a party god.
He's the party frat boy.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the party party god basically, and he shows up on Earth, and then it's like he sends out a beacon or something, and all these other people show up, and you get to see what happened. Like Loki was raised in Jotunheim, and he's a frost giant, and yeah, it's like Thor,
Brother from another father.
You came, and. This whole partying thing is a problem because people show up enough, and it creates like some sort of like
When you
cosmic technobabble
cosmic
energy
ragers.
that causes planets to be destroyed.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Party Thor is great, and Jane and Darcy are in that one, which is nice.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, but it's a lot of fun. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yay.
You guys are awesome.
We're doing Black
Is
Widow
that a
tonight.
doctor's? Oh, is that
That's
a
so
doctor's
cute.
shirt?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
So good.
Tonight at 8, we're going to be talking about Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Yay. Consider it a memorial that she never got.
I know we forgot our candles. We were going to actually bring candles and have a full memorial.
Battery operated ones. 'Cause
Yeah.
we like coming here, and we don't want to be
Setting the
on
hotel
fire.
on fire.
You're not like Thor in Vegas.
right.
I don't know why. But
Yeah, this was a really good time. I'm glad you guys came.
yeah.
And you were question family. We've got like 6 minutes.
So yeah,
Questions,
6 minutes. Favorite Loki moment. Go. Go.
Ragnarok when he scrunches when he sees Hulk. When he's just like, because that's totally a Loki thing.
That's good. That is good.
It goes hand in hand with I've never seen this man before.
Help me out since I can't say what when he throws him.
The
Yeah.
Loki
In
ragdoll
Ragnarok.
scene.
Yeah.
You know how it feels.
Yes.
What is it?
Get help.
Get help.
Get help.
Yeah.
Get help.
Get help.
Get help is my
It's my
favorite.
hero. We're not gonna get help. We're gonna get help.
No. What do you guys think? Favorite Loki moment
It's that one.
is get help.
Well, I like the scene kind of right before when they're sort of like arguing or whatever, and then a guy comes out of the elevator and Thor just blasts and the guys flying up, and Loki's just like, just like, okay.
That's my brother.
Right,
I think mine's also from Ragnarok. And it's kind of whenever Valkyrie and Thor are arguing, and Loki's just sitting very politely tied to a chair. He's just like looking around, and then every so often just saying like, "Excuse me."
Can we make this about me, please?
Anyone else on this side? Favorite Loki moment? Do you have one?
Anything out of Ragnarok.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, the first two movies were good, but Ragnarok was so enjoyable.
Ragnarok
Yeah,
was the love story to the fans.
I guess there's. I don't know if it's just a rumor or if it's true, but I heard something that like Hemsworth wasn't sure he really wanted to do anymore, and because they'd been so serious. And then they get like Taika Waititi came in and was like, "Hi there, let's be like, yeah," and he gets to be funny because he's so brilliantly funny when given a chance.
Yes, the timing was so good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How about you? Favorite Loki moment? No. All right, fair enough.
Love them all.
It's hard. It really is hard to choose.
You know, I just thought of one where right after he finds out his mom is dead. Mm-hmm. He's in prison and he's Thor's like, yeah, whatever. And then Thor leaves
the
and
hologram.
Yeah.
The illusion scene.
Yes, that comes away and he's just like absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
You can see that. The prison is all wrapped.
And the fact that he's so disheveled.
Yes.
And you're just like, Loki, let yourself go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
It's
come on.
like,
Yeah.
Really meaningful.
Like in the old sagas, he's one of only 2 men that know Bulba magic because she taught him,
yeah.
It's like,
I think there's a line from when he's in prison where he's like, "You must be truly desperate to come to me for help."
Yeah. Yeah. So that scene does just like.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh.
And even like in this Disney Plus series, when this Loki has to watch it.
Yeah.
You see him. I think you see him just crumble.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston is so good.
He is
Yay
so
for Tom
versatile.
Hiddleston.
I know Tom Hiddleston. Yeah.
I know.
One of my favorite roles of his that actually wasn't Loki was when he was in Warhorse.
Was what?
In Warhorse.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I've heard about that, but I haven't watched it.
Terribly sad movie, but very good as well. But it's a great scene where they're on horses and they're the cavalry and they're riding towards the Germans and they don't know that they have machine guns. It's the first time Charlie Manson ever been seen. And he's riding with Dr. Strange. Ironically, he's on his horse and they're riding together and they're just charging and there's this great scene where they go, it's completely silent, you barely hear the gunshots going off. And it goes to his face. And the director gave him this note that was like, don't look like sad or anything like that. I want you to look like you're an 8-year-old boy and seeing the death. And it's beautiful.
Wow.
Well, like sad, but
Yeah.
his acting sounds awesome.
But it's a beautiful scene. And you just see the horses coming.
Thank you guys.
Oh.
Here, let me know so you can get them.
no.
That sounds like
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You see the horses kind of jumping through them, and the riders are gone, and it's just the horses.
Thanks. You guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
You
you for
want to see
holding
Black
me.
Widow? It's tonight at 8.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to go down to
Loki, can I
where
get a
the
photo,
autographs
please?
are.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
yeah.
I actually don't know where the photo is this time.
out.
See you later.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.